It's uncontroversial to say that money buys many wonderful things. Now, there are people who find well-being without money, but there's an obvious baseline. We want to have our basic needs met. And above that baseline, we probably want to provide care for ourselves or people we love in the face of serious health concerns. And we want to be able to survive unexpected financial shocks. Basically, I think we all want to have enough money so that we're not kept up at night thinking about money. Now, in the mindfulness business, I've met no shortage of people who have no more than the bare minimum and yet still seem extremely happy. Their idea of luxury is having 2 peppermint teas on the same day. I've also met profoundly rich people who seem very happy too. But what's interesting about those people is that I think, based on what I can intuit of their core values, is that they would be happy even if you took most of their money away. Their money might make things easier, but for those people, it's more qualitative wealth that is doing the heavy lifting. Things like their community, their sense of purpose, their resilience, their ability to enjoy a long drive with their family. They are monetarily rich, but they are rich in many other ways too. So let's get a little bit more into the weeds on this topic. When we talk about happiness and money, many people quote various studies. Almost everyone has heard of Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton's 2010 study, which found that after you're earning $75,000 USD annually, your day-to-day emotional well-being plateaus. That study's a little dated at this point, and there are plenty of other newer studies that quote different numbers. But what people often don't think about is that these numbers deal with incredibly large averages and broad correlations. So you'll find plenty of people on the right side of the income curve who are downright miserable, and vice versa. What I personally find useful when I'm dealing with these kind of philosophical ideas is to start at a personal level. I need to figure out where I stand before I've done any research. So I've been thinking hard about what contributes to my happiness. And so I wrote down a big list of values, emotions, activities, attributes, etc. And then I attempted to rank them. And while I was studying that list, I decided that my relationships are the most important contributor. And then, in no particular order, a sense of meaning, a sense of autonomy, good physical health, and of course, plenty of fun. Now, none of those things have to cost money. But I would say money can certainly help augment all of those things. And that's mostly because money can buy you something more precious than money. And that's time. If you have to do less dreary work, you can spend more time with your friends and your family, strengthening your relationships, basking in your relationships. You can work on projects you care about, and that gives you meaning. That's autonomy. And you can play sports or work out, and of course that contributes to physical health and fun. And yet, even with this in mind, I find myself still strongly believing that money is not the answer, or at least it's not my answer. So I think if we're going to talk about money, it seems we should do a case study of the richest man in the world, Mr. Elon Musk. Elon Musk, without a doubt, has some of the things I highly value. He has no boss, and he's trying to colonize Mars. I would call that a pretty incredible amount of autonomy and purpose. But from what I can tell, he doesn't have everything. And before we go any further, I do want to say I respect a lot of aspects of the guy's personality. It's hard to argue that he's not a singularly talented man, and I am completely in awe of his drive and productivity. But when I attempt to put a microscope on his life, I'm not convinced he's succeeding in many of the things I care about. I wouldn't trade lives. And if you care about some of the things that I care about, then go read the personal life section of Elon's Wikipedia and tell me honestly if you would still trade lives. I mean, how many broken down marriages, How many of your children's high school theater productions and basketball games would you miss? How much prescription ketamine would you take to manage your depression to be the richest man in the world? I try not to judge the personal lives of people who I don't know personally. But my instinct, and it could be wrong, but my instinct is that there is a hole in his heart. I get the sense he is a troubled, lonely man who is conflating true love with adoration. Yes, he's completely adored by millions of followers, but the adoration of millions of strangers is nothing compared to having the feeling of having friends and family sitting at your dinner table with big warm grins, smiling in such a way that you know they're genuinely having a good time. They don't want anything from you. They're not there for your success or your achievements. They're there because they want to be there. And it's just pure distilled love in the air. And when you feel it, you feel very, very rich. And Elon doesn't have time for that. That long, lazy, home-cooked meal comes at the cost of greatness. Again, he's an incredible man with incredible computation power and ambition. And maybe he's doing the things that make him as happy as possible. I personally don't believe that, given he's spoken so much about his depression. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I know he wouldn't trade lives with me. I'm sure he'd think I was a loser. After all, I know his name. He doesn't know mine. He's the type of guy who spends his Sundays trying to take mankind to space. And I spend them doing a few quiet rounds of pub trivia. He's going to go down in history. I'll be forgotten. And yet, when I try and quantify what he has and what I have, not only would I not trade lives with him, I'd give every damn cent I have to not trade lives with him. This is a good time to reiterate. I don't think money is bad. And I don't think being rich is bad. But I think people can be bad at being rich. I do believe for every millionaire and billionaire jerk, there's a fulfilled, happy, stable, and generous one. Even the Buddha is more pro-wealth than you might think. I intuitively assumed he would say, an enlightened person can find happiness staring at the ground and eating sticks. But no, Buddha's pretty pro-money. In the Sigalovada Sutta, and I'm paraphrasing here, the Buddha essentially says that being poor is really goddamn stressful. And there's a lot of cool things you can do with a bit of extra cash. Of course, he gets a little bit more Buddha-y and goes on to talk about all the fun ways you can give your money away. And he layers all of this talk about wealth with plenty of teachings and provisos and warnings about how one should earn their wealth. And that's where we as non-enlightened humans, I think, start to make mistakes. It seems like accumulating wealth often comes with great sacrifices, and many of the things we sacrifice are the very things that are key to making us happy. Which begs the question, what's the point of accumulating the wealth? Money is worthless if you are emotionally and spiritually destitute. And it's even more worthless if everyone thinks you're a prick. It seems certain that if we sacrifice our health and our relationships for money, we're going to find ourselves with a net reduction of happiness. You can find plenty of examples of lovely rich people using their money for good, using their money to enjoy epic experience. And you can find plenty of examples of money tearing families apart at every level of the wealth chain. Siblings fighting over inheritance, partners destroying their families over divorce settlements, best friends never speaking to each other after messy loans. I'm reminded of the story of Jack Whittaker, who in 2002 won the $314 million jackpot. And he has a famous NBC interview where he talks about how the money caused him to lose all of his friends. It cost him his marriage, his relationship with his daughter, and made him the target of various schemes and scams. He says in that interview that winning the jackpot was the worst thing that ever happened to him. So being rich can sometimes be wonderful and sometimes very problematic, but one thing it always is complicated. As part of Principle of Charity, the other podcast I work on, we interviewed Nicholas Berggruen. He's a billionaire, and he's one of the good ones for sure. But we did ask him, what is the worst thing about being a billionaire? And he said, it's just the sheer weight of responsibility that comes with having that much money. He's found a solution. His plan is to give it all away. So, money should be valued, but it can get in the way if you value it too highly. Many of you will have seen the hit TV series Succession, about a family that implodes in the wake of the patriarch deciding to hand over his business to his heirs. And that TV series is basically playing out in real life, in real time, with the Murdoch family right now. In some of these cases, it's not just money that's causing the conflict. There's also the legacy and the moral values of different members of the family at play. But again, when I went through my list of what makes me happy, and I found that relationships are my biggest contributor to my own happiness, it makes me know very deeply that I would never want to risk sacrificing my relationships over money. It's a very, very interesting space. And to help us explore this space, I have a wonderful guest on Thursday who specializes in the counseling and relationship management between members of very high net worth families, particularly during big company handovers and succession protocols. I also just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone who joined the Patreon. We launched it last week, and if you'd like to listen to this show ad-free, the Patreon is an alternative way we can meet the costs of running and hosting this show without using ads. Subscribers will also get access to bonus episodes and a practice club where we offer various exercises to strengthen your mental game and help you try and get better at focusing on what really matters in life. You can join by visiting patreon.com/TOL club or clicking the link in the show notes. My name is Jonah Primo, and this is the Overexamined Life. See you next time.